The metal detector at the security checkpoint let out a sharp beep, and Private First Class Danny Morrison thought it was just another routine check. It was the first hour of the morning shift at Fort Braxton, and the female soldier standing in front of him didn't look any different from the others. Medium height, short brown hair neatly pulled back, ACU uniform perfectly pressed. The only strange thing was that she didn't seem rushed at all. She waited calmly, as if she had all the time in the world. Welcome to the Human Stories channel. Before we dive into today's incredible journey, tell us in the comments where in the world are you watching from. Morrison was getting annoyed by the detector's constant beeping. "Ma'am, I need to check your bag," he said, a slightly irritated tone in his voice. The female soldier looked at him. Her eyes were blue, but such a blue that it seemed like she had seen the depths of the ocean. She just nodded. "Of course," she said quietly. Her voice was strangely reassuring in its calmness. When Morrison took the bag, he noticed it was heavier than normal. As he wondered what could be inside, Sergeant Williams, who was passing by, stopped. "Problem, Morrison?" he asked. Williams was an experienced soldier with 15 years under his belt, specializing in security matters. Morrison shrugged. "Just routine check, Sergeant. Metal detector keeps going off." Williams looked at the female soldier. Something bothered him, but he couldn't figure out what. "What's your rank, ma'am?" he asked. The female soldier looked at her uniform. It only had Carter written on it with no rank insignia. "I'm on classified assignment, Sergeant," she said calmly. "I'm here temporarily." Morrison placed the bag on the table and began to open it. The first thing that came out was a normal notebook. Between its pages were scribbled coordinates and incomprehensible codes. The second thing was a water bottle, and the third was a small black box. Morrison weighed the box in his hand. It was metallic with no writing on it. "What is this, ma'am?" he asked. The female soldier, Carter, looked at the box. For a moment, deep sadness crossed her face, as if she had remembered old memories. "Personal item," she said simply. Morrison reached out to open the box, but Carter stopped him. "Be careful," she said. "It's special." When Morrison opened the box, a gold-colored medal emerged from inside. The medal was different from normal military decorations. It had an eagle figure on it, but this eagle didn't resemble any military symbol he knew. The eagle's wings were spread, and it held 3 stars in its talons. The strangest part was that on the back of the medal, there was only one number: 7. Williams approached, and when he saw the medal, he froze. His face suddenly turned pale. "This isn't possible," he muttered. Morrison looked at him. "What's wrong, Sergeant? It's just a medal." Williams quickly looked around and lowered his voice. "Morrison, act like you never saw this medal, right now." But it was too late. Other soldiers waiting near the checkpoint had seen the medal. Whispers began among them. "What's that medal? I've never seen anything like it. Why is Williams so panicked?" Carter took the medal from Morrison's hand and put it back in the box. "Are you done with your check?" she asked. Her voice was still calm, but there was something different in her eyes, as if a storm was approaching. Morrison nodded, but Williams signaled him to stop. "Ma'am, where did you get this medal?" Carter looked at him for a long time. "Do you have the right to ask that, Sergeant?" Williams stepped back. Despite her rankless uniform, there was an authority about this woman that disturbed him. "No, ma'am, I apologize." At that moment, Major Rodriguez came out of the command center. Coming to the security checkpoint to check morning reports, he heard the whispers. "What's happening here?" he asked in a stern voice. Morrison quickly came to attention. "Just routine check, sir. Everything's normal." But when Rodriguez saw Carter, he stopped. He looked at the female soldier for a long time, as if trying to recognize her. Have we met before?" Carter shook her head. "I don't think so, sir." But there was doubt on Rodriguez's face. Meanwhile, Williams pulled Morrison aside. "Listen, kid," he said in a low voice. "Only 9 people have ever received that medal. 5 of them are dead. 3 are missing in action. Only 1 is alive and she's—" His voice trailed off. He looked at Carter. "And she's a woman." Morrison was confused. "What do you mean, Sergeant?" Williams took a deep breath. "That medal belongs to Operation Ghostwind, one of the most classified missions, an operation that officially doesn't exist. And if that medal is real—" Williams looked at Carter again. The woman was still standing calmly, but now everyone around was watching her. Rodriguez approached. "Ma'am, your name is Carter, isn't it?" Carter nodded. "Yes, sir." Rodriguez was trying to remember something. "May I see your assignment orders?" Carter pulled out a small folder and handed over an envelope. When Rodriguez opened the envelope, there was only one paper inside. The paper had only one line written on it. Classified. Need to know basis only. By order of Pentagon. Rodriguez's hand trembled. Orders coming directly from the Pentagon were only used in the highest level operations. "Ma'am, what is your actual rank?" Carter looked at him. This time there was a different light in her eyes. "Do you have the authority to ask that, Major?" At that moment, Colonel Harrison, passing near the checkpoint, heard the voices and approached. "Major Rodriguez, what's the problem?" Rodriguez quickly came to attention. "Sir, routine check. This soldier's classification is unclear." When Harrison saw Carter, he stopped. He looked at her for a long time, then noticed the medal. Carter was still holding the box in her hand, and the box was half open. Harrison's expression changed. "Everyone clear this area. Now." His voice came out so sharp that all the soldiers around quickly dispersed. Harrison approached Carter. "Ma'am, may I see that medal?" Carter opened the box and showed the medal to Harrison. When the colonel saw the medal, he stepped back. "My God," he muttered, Are you Ghost 7? Carter just nodded. Harrison quickly looked around. "Major Rodriguez, clear this area immediately. Sergeant Williams, you never heard this conversation. Private Morrison, forget what you saw. That's an order." But Morrison couldn't contain his curiosity. "Sir, what is Ghost 7? Harrison shot him a stern look. "Private, some things are far above your need-to-know level, and this is one of them." Carter put the medal back in the box. "Colonel, thank you, but it wasn't necessary." Harrison nodded. "Ma'am, it's always necessary. People like you—" His voice trailed off. "Never mind, carry on." "We apologize." Carter gathered her bag and started walking. But after a few steps, she stopped and turned to Harrison. "Colonel, if you're going to report this incident, don't write the medal number. Just write classified military decoration." Harrison nodded. "Understood, ma'am." After Carter left, Harrison turned to the soldiers around. "Nobody heard this conversation. Nobody saw this woman. This medal didn't exist. Understood?" Everyone nodded, but there were questions in their eyes. Williams couldn't hold back. "Sir, who is Ghost 7 really?" Harrison took a deep breath. "Williams, some stories exist not to be told, but to be forgotten. Ghost 7 is one of them." That night when Williams went home, he called his old friend Tom. Tom worked in the intelligence division at the Pentagon. "Tom, have you ever heard of something called Ghost 7? There was a long silence on the phone. "Jim, how do you know about this?" Williams's heart raced. "I just heard it somewhere." Tom's voice became serious. "Jim, never say that name again, never, and try to forget it." But Williams couldn't forget. The next day, he started researching on the internet. Ghost 7, Operation Ghostwind, classified medals. He tried everything. No results came up. It was as if such things had never existed. 2 weeks later, while researching in Fort Braxton's old library, Williams found an old newspaper, a page from 2019. There was a small corner news item: "Diplomats rescued in Syria. Identity of rescue team classified." At the end of the news, there was one sentence: "Sources report unusual military decoration awarded to team members." Williams's heart started racing. What had happened in Syria in 2019? He continued researching. There was nothing in official records, but there were whispers on military forums. Ghost team in Syria. 7 operatives. Impossible mission. They don't exist. One night, Williams saw his old friend Mike. Mike had served in special forces and was now retired. "Mike, what happened in Syria in 2019? Mike looked at him strangely. "Why are you asking, Jim?" Williams told him about the medal. Mike's expression changed. "Jim, I never heard that story, and neither did you." But then he lowered his voice. "But if you really saw that medal, that woman is a hero, a legend, and she never existed." Williams didn't dare ask more, but his curiosity was consuming him. What was that medal? Who was Ghost 7? And was that calm woman really one of the legends? 3 weeks later, while Williams was on security duty, he saw a familiar face. Carter was coming again. This time she was wearing a different uniform, full combat gear. Williams approached her. "Ma'am, welcome back." Carter looked at him and smiled slightly. "Hello, Sergeant Williams. I hope our last conversation didn't disturb you." Williams shook his head. "No, ma'am, but I'm curious." Carter stopped. "What are you curious about?" Williams looked around. No one else was there. That medal. What was it really awarded for? Carter looked at him for a long time. Then she pulled out a small photograph from her pocket. In the photo were 7 people, all wearing combat gear, their faces covered. But one was a woman. "In Syria," Carter said quietly. 7 diplomats had been kidnapped by ISIS. Execution dates had been given, 48 hours. Williams held his breath. "And," Carter looked at the photograph, "we rescued them, all of us, but," her voice trailed off, "not all of us came back." Williams's eyes filled with tears. "How many?" Carter pointed to the faces in the photograph. "Me and one other person. The others." Williams nodded. "I understand." Carter took the photograph back. "That medal is for them, Sergeant, not to be remembered, to be forgotten." Williams nodded. "I understand, ma'am, and thank you for sharing the story." As Carter walked away, Williams called out to her. "Ma'am, what's your real name?" Carter stopped, didn't turn around. "Carter," she said, "Sarah Carter, and that's real too." That night, Williams sat at home, thinking about the events. 7 heroes in Syria, 5 dead, 2 alive, and 1 here among them, living quietly. Nobody knew who she was. Nobody knew what that medal meant. Williams picked up the phone and called Tom again. "Tom, can you research Syria 2019? Tom was silent for a long time. "Jim, there's nothing I can tell you about that. But if you really met someone, show them respect and try to forget." Williams hung up the phone, but he couldn't forget. That medal, that story, that quiet, heroic woman. They all echoed in his mind. The next morning, when Williams came to security duty, Morrison was waiting for him. "Sergeant, I researched that woman." Williams stopped. "Morrison, what did I tell you?" Morrison had a paper in his hand. "But look at what I found." The paper had an internet printout from a memorial site. "Syrian Hostage Crisis 2019. 7 diplomatic personnel rescued by unknown military unit. 5 rescuers KIA, 2 survived. Identity classified." Williams read the paper. At the end was a note. "This memorial dedicated to Ghost Team 7. Morrison was excited. "Sergeant, that woman really is Ghost 7. She's a legend." Williams took the paper and tore it up. "Morrison, never bring up this topic. Never. If that woman wants peace, you'll give her peace." But Williams knew within himself that calm, quiet woman, Carter, really was a legend. And that medal wasn't just metal. It was the memory of unforgotten friends, of dead heroes. 48 hours later, Williams saw Carter in the base cafeteria. She was sitting alone, eating quietly. Williams approached her. "Ma'am, may I disturb you?" Carter looked up. "Of course, Sergeant. Sit down." Williams sat. "Ma'am, about that medal, nobody else will know, I promise." Carter smiled. "Thank you, Sergeant, but very few people know anyway." Williams was curious. "Ma'am, if it's not disturbing, why here?" "I mean, someone like you." Carter looked out the window. "Because here I can be normal. Nobody expects me to be a hero. Just Carter." Williams nodded. "I understand." Carter looked at him. "Sergeant, some people fight for glory, some for duty. We fought for our friends, and they're not here now, but we remember them." That evening, Williams sat at home, thinking about that day. A legend lived on the base, and nobody knew. Just that small gold medal and a quiet woman, and the memory of the unforgotten. From that night on, Williams began to see Carter with different eyes. She wasn't just Carter. She was Ghost 7. She was Syria's surviving hero, and that medal was the voice of her forgotten friends. Carter did her normal duties on the base every day: training, briefing, routine duties. She never complained. She never asked for special treatment. She just existed. And Williams knew that if danger came one day, that calm woman could become Ghost 7 again. The medal was always with her. Her friends were always in her heart. 3 months passed in this strange normalcy. Williams had almost convinced himself that the entire incident was just an unusual coincidence. Maybe Carter was just someone who happened to possess a replica medal. Maybe the stories were exaggerated. Maybe Ghost 7 was just another military urban legend that had grown beyond reality through whispered conversations and classified imagination. But then came the morning that shattered every comfortable delusion Williams had built around the truth. The emergency sirens began wailing at 0400 hours, cutting through the pre-dawn darkness like a blade through silk. Williams jolted awake in his quarters, muscle memory already pulling him toward his uniform before his mind fully processed what was happening. The base intercom crackled to life with Major Rodriguez's voice, strained and urgent in a way Williams had never heard before. "Hostile infiltration detected. All personnel report to emergency stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Williams ran toward the command center, his boots echoing against concrete corridors that seemed longer and darker than usual. Other soldiers emerged from barracks and administrative buildings, their faces showing the same mixture of confusion and adrenaline that pumped through his own veins. Emergency lighting cast everything in harsh red shadows, transforming familiar pathways into something alien and threatening. The command center buzzed with controlled chaos, officers hunched over screens displaying thermal imaging from perimeter cameras. Radio chatter filled the air with fragments of reconnaissance reports. 3 unknowns breached the eastern fence line, moving with tactical precision, armed and dangerous, destination unknown. Colonel Harrison stood at the central display, his jaw tight with concentration. Williams could see the strategic problem immediately. The infiltrators had chosen their entry point with professional expertise, exploiting a blind spot in the base's surveillance grid that shouldn't have been known to anyone outside the security department. This wasn't some random criminal activity. This was planned. This was targeted. Williams scanned the room for Carter, but didn't see her among the assembled personnel. The thought nagged at him as he took his assigned position in the security coordination team. Where was Ghost 7 when the base faced its first real threat in years? The infiltrators moved like shadows through the base infrastructure, avoiding main pathways and staying within the coverage gaps that most personnel didn't even know existed. Security teams scrambled to intercept them, but each time they repositioned their forces, the unknowns had already shifted to a new vector. It was as if the infiltrators could predict every tactical response before it happened. 15 minutes into the crisis, one of the communication specialists turned to Harrison with confusion written across his features. "Colonel, we're detecting unauthorized access to the classified communications array. Someone is attempting to breach the Pentagon direct line." Harrison's expression darkened. The Pentagon direct line was used only for the most sensitive intelligence communications. If hostile forces gained access to that channel, they could potentially compromise operations across multiple theaters. The implication sent ice through Williams's bloodstream. Then came the moment that changed everything. A figure appeared in the command center doorway, moving with the fluid grace of someone who belonged everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Carter stepped into the red-lit chaos wearing full tactical gear that seemed to materialize from some hidden cache. Her face was painted with camouflage patterns that transformed her features into something primal and dangerous. But her eyes remained the same calm blue, now focused with laser intensity on the tactical display. She didn't speak to anyone, didn't request permission or await orders. Carter simply walked to the central console and began inputting commands with the speed and precision of someone who had performed these exact actions under fire countless times before. Williams watched in fascination as screens began displaying new information, tracking algorithms that revealed patterns invisible to everyone else in the room. The infiltrators weren't trying to steal information or sabotage equipment. They were hunting for someone specific. The realization hit Williams like physical impact as he saw Carter's fingers pause over the keyboard for just one heartbeat before resuming their deadly efficient work. They had come for Ghost 7. Carter's tactical analysis revealed the truth within minutes. The infiltrators were former intelligence operatives, specialists in assassination and extraction. They had been feeding information to hostile foreign interests for years, operating as a sleeper cell within the American military structure. But their current mission was personal. They were cleaning house, eliminating witnesses to operations that were supposed to remain buried forever. The Syrian rescue mission had exposed their network. 7 heroes had brought back more than just diplomats from that compound. They had brought back intelligence that could unravel years of carefully constructed treason. 5 of those heroes were already dead, killed in incidents that appeared accidental, but followed patterns too precise to be coincidental. Now only 2 remained, and the assassins had found them. Carter worked in silence, her hands moving across control panels with the mechanical precision of a master craftsman. Security cameras throughout the base began rotating to new positions, creating interlocking fields of observation that eliminated every hiding place the infiltrators had been using. Motion sensors activated in sequences that herded the unknowns toward predetermined kill zones. Emergency lighting shifted from red to white, destroying the shadows that had provided concealment. The infiltrators found themselves exposed, surrounded, and outmaneuvered by someone who understood their tactics better than they understood themselves. Because Ghost 7 had been trained by the same instructors, had learned from the same classified manuals, had perfected skills in the same black sites that had shaped these killers. But she had remained loyal to something they had forgotten. Within 20 minutes, all 3 infiltrators were neutralized. 2 captured alive, 1 dead from wounds sustained during a firefight with base security forces guided by Carter's tactical coordination. The Pentagon direct line remained secure. The classified communications array showed no signs of compromise. The base lockdown lifted as dawn painted the eastern sky in shades of gold and crimson. Carter removed her tactical gear methodically, transforming back into the quiet woman Williams had come to know. But something fundamental had changed. The mask of normalcy she wore daily had slipped just enough to reveal the warrior beneath, and everyone in the command center had seen what Ghost 7 looked like when the world needed saving. Harrison approached her as the crisis teams began their damage assessment. Ma'am, that was extraordinary tactical work. How did you identify their pattern so quickly? Carter looked at him with those calm blue eyes, now carrying a weight that seemed to press against the air itself. Because I helped train half of them, Colonel, back when we all served the same flag. The implications of that statement rippled through the command center like a stone dropped into still water. Ghost 7 hadn't just been a rescue operative. She had been part of something larger, something that had produced both heroes and traitors from the same source material. The difference lay not in training or capability, but in choices made when darkness called. Williams realized he had been holding his breath. The woman standing before them wasn't just a legend preserved in whispered stories and classified memorials. She was a living reminder that honor and betrayal often wore identical faces until the moment of truth revealed which path each soul had chosen to walk. As Carter gathered her equipment and prepared to return to whatever shadows had hidden her for years, Williams understood that some guardians never stopped watching, never stopped protecting, never stopped paying the price for choices made in fire and blood and foreign soil. The medal in her bag wasn't just a decoration. It was a covenant with the dead, a promise that their sacrifice would not be forgotten or diminished by those who had chosen easier paths. And Ghost 7 would carry that covenant until her last breath, whether anyone knew her name or not. If this story moved you, if it reminded you never to judge someone by what you see on the surface, tell us in the comments from which city in the world are you watching the Human Stories channel today, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. At the Human Stories channel, we believe real courage often hides in silence. Real strength doesn't need an audience, and the most extraordinary people are often the ones who never ask for recognition. Thank you for being here, and remember, the most powerful stories are often the ones never meant to be told.